as the temperatures continue to rise across the province, it's the first real taste of summer weather that we've had so far this year. And to give us all the details of what to expect this weekend, it is our very own climate and science specialist, Darius Mahdavi. Hi, Darius.
Hey, Amy.
So what can we expect, right across the province this weekend?
Oh, it's an easy forecast for me. Sunshine, nothing really but sunshine. The slightest chance of some showers tonight in parts of the southeast, but I don't expect to see much precipitation activity at all, really at any time in the near future across BC until we get into probably mid next week. Maybe some places on the north coast, up in the northwest, North Island, start to see temperatures come down a bit. But until then, everybody's above seasonal. Some people more than others. Some places in the interior, 10 to 12 degrees above seasonal. I think we'll see our first 40-degree temperature in BC this week. I would say Kamloops or Osoyoos, those are good places to put your money on to see 40 degrees, probably by sort of Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. That seems to be our hottest stretch. But this ridge of high pressure that's building in, so California right now has a heat dome that's building in, and so for just as temperatures warm up, as we get hot, we can be thankful we're not in Death Valley, where temperatures are going to be
I'm always thankful for that, Darius.
Oh yeah, getting up to around 50 degrees. But
Wow.
yeah, for people tuning in visually, they can see here the ridge of high pressure that's going to be building in over the next few days, and really just staying in place for a long period of time. For those who are not watching visually, just know that it's it's going to be hot. That's really all people are seeing. That's going to continue to build in. That keeps us dry. That keeps us hot. We get to sort of the north end of that heat dome. So I know that here especially, the term heat dome is a little bit charged.
Yes.
In this case, I'll mostly stick to the term heat wave. Heat dome really just means that there's basically a lid on the atmosphere that's pushing all that hot air back down every time it warms up.
Right.
It keeps warming up more and more and more. And that's going to continue happening for pretty much the foreseeable future. All the cloud clearing out of BC. I doubt many people will see much cloud at all over the next few days. We have some heat warnings in effect. The entire coast, stretching up from just north of Terrace down to Howe Sound, has heat warnings. The east coast of the island has some heat warnings. Some places will get quite a bit hotter than that. Different parts of BC have different sort of thresholds for what requires a heat warning. And crucially, you need both a really a specific high temperature and low temperature. So for instance, Port Alberni is going to be warmer than places on the east coast of the island this week or this weekend. They're going to hit easily into the 30s, but their low temperatures are staying at around 10 or 11. So they don't meet that sort of 16-degree low threshold to get a heat warning there. Also, the reason we're not seeing a heat warning yet in Kamloops, even though they're going to see temperatures reaching 40 degrees.
I would think you'd want to warn somebody about that, but again,
yes,
is it just the overnight?
It might be coming. Yeah, I would say that more heat warnings will probably be on the way. For instance, Metro Vancouver and the Fraser Valley right now have a special weather statement saying, just so you know, it's going to be really hot in the days. So far, the lows aren't quite there to qualify for a heat warning, but they're likely going to be coming in the days ahead, I would imagine. We'll start to see them this weekend start to pop up, if not today, because it's going to be very difficult heat. As soon as you get 35 degrees or higher, especially if it's humid, you start to see, less, the fans aren't as good at cooling people down because it's just so hot. You can't pull that sweat away. You can't pull that heat away from your body with a fan. So make sure that you have a plan to get somewhere cool if you need to. Make sure your house is well ventilated. It sounds like a silly thing to say, but it always happens somewhere. Don't leave your kids or pets in the car, and that sort of thing. So just be aware of the dangers of heat, because it is the most deadly kind of extreme weather event.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, just mentioning the word heat dome here after our 2021, it is really charged. And anytime we start talking about these high temperatures, I think a lot of people do get very worried and sort of start to plan. You mentioned as well the humidity. I've really noticed that this year, it's a lot more humid than it used to be. I've lived on the West Coast my entire life, and it's only been in the last few years that I've really noticed the activity, the humidity. I don't know if that's me reacting to my old age or have we seen more humidity?
I don't have a solid answer for you there. It is the case that, especially in Vancouver, where when we start to, or really along the coast here, when we start to see a long stretch of warmer temperatures, which are becoming more common, the surface of the strait starts to warm up a lot more. And when that happens, it evaporates more effectively, especially into hot air. When that happens, the air is now more full of water, and then it can move over land, and it's just more humid because of that. So the warmer the surface of the strait is, the more humid it's going to be. And so as we get into early next week, I expect to see that it'll feel more and more humid. And so the feels like temperature, the humidex, will start to climb more and more. So for instance, yesterday, 2 days ago, it probably felt like 2 degrees warmer with the humidity. Yesterday, 3 degrees. Today, 4 degrees. By the end of this weekend, you're probably adding 5 degrees into what it feels like, 6 degrees maybe even. And then, of course, also the inland factor. So even though if you sort of just look on your weather app, it'll say Vancouver, 25 degrees. That's usually for Vancouver Airport, right on the water. So if you're inland, right now, add sort of 4 or 5 degrees to that. By early next week, probably add 6 degrees to that. So it's going to be, and then the humidex on top of that.
Right.
So feeling like the mid 30s easily for some places inland in Vancouver by early next week. It's going to be a scorcher.
It is going to be a scorcher. Before I let you go, is this sort of the kickoff to a sweltering summer? Is this just, just the normal way things play out and we'll get back to seasonal temperatures? What are we expecting this summer?
Right now, this is, so across Canada,
Do you hate this
sort of a little bit. Seasonal
sorry.
forecasts are Eastern Canada right now, the Environment Canada sort of summer forecast is that Eastern Canada is 80 to 90% more likely to be above seasonal. Doesn't say how much, doesn't say whether that actually will be, it's just the probability of it. They forecasted the most likely scenario is a normal summer for Vancouver, but that's like with 40% certainty.
Right.
It's 30% chance to be lower, 30% chance to be higher. I don't think that we're going to see, basically it's a wash. We don't really know what's going to happen here in Vancouver. Across BC, it's a very similar story where it's just sort of up in the air. This is definitely an interesting start to summer, to be sure. Not even start. We had a relatively cool June in many places. So sort of turning around from that. This case, at this point, I'm just going to say that this is a function of the weather pattern that we have over BC. I'm going to reserve my judgment on what the rest of the summer will be, at least for now. But I will say, no end in sight to this heat wave in particular. Okay. There's no sort of defined end date. It's very much up in the air right now. At least until mid next week, the vast majority of BC is going to continue seeing these scorching temperatures. So even though Kamloops for instance, is likely going to hit 40 degrees sort of Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday, they're still in the very high 30s beyond that point right now. And it remains to be seen when exactly the end of this will be for most of us.
Okay. We're just going to leave it all up in the air. See what happens.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. Thank you for coming in. I know
Thanks,
you're
Amy.
busy with heat waves and hurricanes, keeping track today, so thank you.
Anytime.
All right. Darius Mahdavi is our CBC Climate and Science Specialist.